All right. I can pretty much guarantee that you haven't spent enough time thinking about your offer and, just as importantly, the way that you deliver it. So, in this video, I'm going to break down everything I think you need to pack into an offer um, in order to make it pop and in order to make your mind, your life, and your business run a lot smoother. I just read a statistic. I don't know the source. I don't know if it's credible, but it kind of makes sense. That over 80% of coaches still charge by the hour, and the rate that they charge is just over £100 an hour. I think that's fucking crazy. So I want to show you how to position something and build something so good that you're able to charge 3k, 5k, 10k, 15k for it in some cases. Because what everyone wants is content that is easy to make. They want their sales and their systems and their processes to line up. When they put together a script, or they talk about putting a message out there into the world, or they build materials for their clients. Everyone wants that to run smoothly, but none of it does if you don't have an offer that makes sense in your head and also makes sense to potential clients too. So we're going to work across a few different things. First and foremost, the actual product side of things, then the positioning, and then we're going to talk about how that impacts literally every area of your business. I had a call last week, back into last week, and the lady had done all the offer work, done all the brand, all the positioning, all these things. I don't know how long she'd spent on them, but I said to her, "Well, if those things were working, we wouldn't be on this call. So what's the problem? What's the issue, and why are we speaking?" And she said, "Well, I'm not getting any leads, or I'm not getting as many leads as I was a few months ago." And I think that's because this statement at the top is true. And not enough time has been spent, not just a one off exercise, but repeatedly on crafting and building an offer, one that you're happy with, but two that people actually want to buy. So let's get into it. Everything in sales, in marketing, when you have any kind of audience, should always start with one truly important factor, the most important factor, and that is the people. Okay, who are the target market on a business, on an operational, and on a personal level, who you're trying to sell to. So that's the first element of building what I'm going to call a master offer. Okay, and I'll tell you why it's called master a little bit later. You need to know who you're selling to, and you need to know as much information about them as possible. Now, it's all well and good creating something and thinking that it's wonderful, but if it doesn't actually solve a problem or deliver value to a set group of people, they're going to tune out. Okay, and I've seen this done countless times where people will come up with an idea. I think, is it like the average successful entrepreneur has had like 7 failed ventures before they actually find the one. And that's, I believe, due to them not knowing their audience well enough. And if you're watching this, you might be in a state of not actually knowing your audience at all yet, and that's fine. There are ways that you can go out and get feedback from them and find out if there is going to be a good sort of product market or product people fit. But what I would like you to think about is niching down. All right, I fucking hate the phrase. I fundamentally disagree with doing it to a disproportionate amount at the start of the journey, but we do want to get specific. Okay, you imagine, just like we've got on LinkedIn, we've got the whole world, all the audience are on LinkedIn, and we could add anyone we want as a connection, or we could follow anyone we want. Pointless, because we'd end up following a bricklayer from Southampton, we'd end up following a painter and decorator from Newcastle, we end up following, an energy consultant from South Africa, whatever it might be. That's not going to get us what we want. So we need to be quite specific. Just ticking certain criteria will take that massive group of people and bring it into a small group, which is basically what niching down is. Here's how I define it. All right, it's a group of people with a set of commonality. So I'm not going to tell you to niche all the way down to like left-handed, dressmakers in Switzerland who watch Home and Away on Sundays or anything, only eat Mars bars for breakfast or anything like that. But there are going to be a set of commonalities in the group of people that you want to sell to. And the more you stack those commonalities together, and the more commonalities you can list, the deeper your niche becomes, and the more specific your offer becomes as well. And specificity is the aim of the game. Not ultra specific all the time, but when it's more specific, it's more appealing. If you think about the idea that, trying to find something on my desk, I'll go with a phone. Let's say this phone works for everyone. I know it does. Then everyone's going to buy it. But if Apple put in, this phone works specifically well for people who are working away from home, who stay in hotels and can't get Wi-Fi, all of a sudden it eradicates a load of the market, but it's very appealing and very specific to a certain group of people who will probably, because it's so specific, spend even more money to alleviate the problem of not having Wi-Fi when they're staying away. That was a crap example, but you get the idea. All right. So we can start to stack these commonalities. Now that might be location. It might be industry. It might be their gender. It might be their age. It might be their department if you sell to corporates. It could be turnover or headcount. All these different things. All right. And the more specific you can get on those, the easier all of this work becomes as well. Because if you're just selling everything to everyone or anything to anyone, that's where the stuff that you want, the things that you want, like that make your life easy, so creating content and having conversations, sending emails, building landing pages, whatever it is, become a lot harder to write because you're accommodating for a much larger group of people. The one thing, if you say, I don't only sell to specific locations, or I don't want to sell to specific industries, cool. I think there is one thing that you can niche down on above everything else. And that is the problem or problems that you solve for people. Because if you don't solve a problem, there is no value that's been created. Okay? The people will exchange money when value is created, or exchange time and money when value is created. And if value isn't created, they simply won't care and won't spend. Every transaction, whether it's a time or a financial transaction, happens because there is some form of problem or some form of value needed. The way to look at this, you could think about, I spend time watching a Mr. Beast video. All right. Well, the value that's created there is entertainment. The problem that is solved is probably just boredom. Maybe you're wasting time, or maybe just got nothing else to do. But everything solves a problem. So if that's what you can, if you're struggling with any of this stuff here, the best thing you can do is think about the actual problem that you solve for this group of people. Okay. And usually that's leaning into your expertise. So what are you good at? What's profitable? What have you done in the past? What have you had good results, either personally or professionally, for yourself or with other people? And leaning into that. So we can really start to zoom in. This stuff's great, so put this in if you can, but really zooming in on the problems that you solve. Because those problems are going to lead very well into your content, into your sales and marketing process too. So the earlier on that you can become acutely aware of the problems you solve, the easier everything else gets. And this master offer that we're going to piece together today knocks down so many dominoes. Now, the thing with problems is there are big problems that people have, but a lot of the time big problems are made up of what I've called micro problems. All right, so we've got the macro, or the meta, if we want to go that far up, and then we've got all these little micro problems. If you think about someone having a relationship, they're having relationship issues, that's the thing that they're thinking about a lot of the time. Probably is like, I've got a problem. That's how they describe it to their friends. I'm struggling with my wife, I'm struggling with my husband at the moment, yada yada yada. But that's not the real reason or the root cause. So we can look a couple of layers deeper and go, well, what are the series of micro problems that are stacking together in order to create the big one? Now, in a relationship, if it's not going so well, it might be that you don't spend any time together. It might be poor communication. It might be the fact that you've got nothing in common, or someone's always out on the piss, something like that, right? So once we can become aware of those things, these micro problems here, we can then start to work out ways to solve them. So how would we solve the lack of communication? I mean, I'll take it back to our business. Most people come to us because of lack of leads or sales. Now, a lot of the time, those things are solved, one, through mindset, solved through systems, they're solved through actually going through a master offer. It may be some sort of sales process, all these different things. You might not have a script or an agenda or a frame for the calls, whatever. Might be the fact that what they're selling is shit, Could be a few different things. But once we are aware of the things that cause the big problem, we've got a few different ways to be able to target it and also be able to solve it as well. As I say, people will not buy unless they think it's solving a problem or it seems to be solving a problem. So that's why we always set the offer up and set the stage with who are we doing it, who are we working with, and what problem or problems are we solving. Because once we know those things, it's very easy for us then to be able to prescribe a path. And you have to think about the path for a second. Imagine if you're lost and you go up to someone and ask them for directions. They're going to tell you, go here, go left, go right, blah, blah, blah. And the easiest path for me, I don't know about you guys, whenever I get lost and I ask someone for directions, the minute someone starts giving me 47 different left, rights, and turn left by the statue, go ahead where past the cafe where the dead pigeons are, or whatever it might be, I zone out. So what I'm ultimately looking for is someone who can describe either the next few steps or describe all the steps, but very easily so I can follow them. And that's ultimately someone giving you a guide or a path or a journey to solving a problem. The problem being, I want to get there, I don't know what to do. Well, if you do this, this, and this, you'll be almost there. So we can look at the problem or the current state of where people are at, and then we look at the desired state or the end state or success, and then start to prescribe this path or this journey. And I call these the phases, all right? The 3 to 5 major milestones that people have to walk through, or levels they have to jump through or graduate, or complete was the word I was looking for, in order to reach success. Now, you might have a massive, long customer journey. All right, someone signs up with you, they've got to do this, then you have a call, then this, like loads of different things. That's the version, if you were to describe that in your marketing, of the guy giving you 47 different directions. You just need something top level that is nice and prescriptive that allows you to pitch it. So when we talk about these 3 to 5 phases, as I mentioned, you might have 47 different things that you have to do, or 150 different things that you have to do alongside with your client or whatever to allow them to reach the end goal. To give you context on this, ours is pretty simple. Offer, market, sales, delivery, scaling things up. All right. You can see how much work goes into an offer, which is the first part, or the way I talk about it, the first phase. But I'm not going to start talking about that in my marketing. This is for me to have clarity internally to know that, okay, step 1 is this, step 2 is this, step 3 is this, step 4 is this. And then I can condense that whole journey into like 3 to 5 steps. So I'll be able to say to someone, yep, the first thing we're going to do is build out your offer so it's something you actually want to sell and it stands out against competitors. The second thing is we're going to market it using content and conversations in order to create opportunity, which we're then going to sell to. Once we've sold to those people and we help you with a robust sales process, we then have to deliver to. And once we've refined all these things and we have a repeatable customer journey, then we can start to scale certain things up. If I described every single one of the steps involved in that whole process, it would get very, very fucking complicated and people would tune out and get bored. So knowing exactly, okay, this is who I'm going to sell it to, these are the commonalities and these are the major problems that we solve, and this is the path to success, we can then get a bit more granular about how we describe or how we take them on the journey. That's for us, but this is almost a very loose roadmap that we take our clients on. And hopefully you can start to see how this fits together now. If you're a person with these commonalities and you're suffering from these problems, I can show you a path to success that's very fucking simple. All right, imagine you inject the right words into that based on your target market. Suddenly it starts to become quite powerful. And we're nowhere near done. All right, we're going to make it sound all sexy a little bit later. But first, we've got these 3 bits. The fourth part is deciding how you are going to deliver your solution. Again, this report that I read about how coaches deliver was a very interesting one, because obviously they were charging by the hour, undercharging as well, and they were probably just doing one of the three delivery types. So there are three ways that you can deliver your service. The first one is done for you, so you do it all for them. That might be like a video editor, or a designer or something like that, or an agency that runs ads. Done with you is where you kind of co-collaborate. That is what most coaches do. And then DIY, that would be something like a course that you give to someone, and you basically give someone a book or something to do. All right, go and complete this. Most people are stuck just doing one of these things. What I think the best thing to do is create what I call the hybrid delivery model. So you blend all three. An example of what we're doing inside my program C2C is, yes, a lot of it is done with you. So we will be speaking to you about where you're up to in the journey and the problems and the real-time sort of blockers that you're facing. But we're also going to give you a bit of work to do on your own. Okay, you have to go away and do it and then bring it back to the done with you. But that's not enough. We also want to make sure that as much work as possible is swallowed up by us in order to make your journey easier. And that is done with you. So we've built a load of systems, also a load of tools and a couple of AI things as well that just speed up the process and take the sting out of the do-it-yourself work. And these three operate together. So the way that you can sort of deploy this is go back through the customer journey, okay, and look at the elements that you can do for clients, do with them and get them to do themselves. Now, a lot of programs I've been in, unfortunately, will just push people towards doing everything themselves, which is great to some extent, but if there were any things that they could give me in order to speed up the process, I would have been a lot more grateful. Thankfully, we are in a world now where we can kind of speed things up quite a bit just using AI. But that being said, a lot of AI is shit. But once we have these different elements, okay, so we've been through each of the phases, we've gone a client has to do this. Well, I could create this tool to help them do it. Then I could check in with them and make sure that they've done it properly, or I could give them a review video. And then you bounce around between these things in order to make the outcome a lot more achievable in a lot shorter space of time. The other thing that this really helps with is building this, what I call a master offer. All right, so I think the best offers are not multiple offers that are all separate things. You become known for selling one thing to one group of people, and you're able to pick out certain elements of your offering to give to them at select times or to try and sell to them. It's almost like the full meal is the whole thing, but we might want to give you a starter, which might just be this little done for you or done with you or do it yourself element that we break off. As an example, one of the things that we offer to our clients is events. Okay, they get to come and sit in a room all together at a very, very, very cheap rate, pretty much free. And we might occasionally break that off and sell it on its own. Now, that doesn't detract from the outcome that we help people get. It doesn't dilute my marketing. It keeps us front and center, still helping people win more clients and get more leads. But we break it off, and we also can almost give people like this taster. All right, here's what it's like to work with us. And when we've run these events and invited people to them and sold tickets to them, most of them have signed up. They wouldn't have bought the whole thing, but they did buy this specific part of it. And then having seen that and enjoyed it and experienced it, they're much more susceptible to go, you know what, this feels pretty good, I am happy to join. So it really helps to be able to have this, almost like this Rubik's Cube, if you like, of mini offers that you can put together and sell as one, but also break away and sell as individual people as well. Now, we've done quite a bit of work already, and this is going on a little bit longer than I thought it would. But let's look at pricing next, because we know who we're selling to, we know the problem it solves, we know the journey we're going to take them on in order to see success. We also know that we're going to help them out in different ways. And we also know if we need to, we can break off certain things that we've built inside this offer and sell them separately in order to entice people to work with us in a more fully fledged capacity in 6 months' time, or whatever it may be. All right. But how do we price it? Now, pricing's a tough one, and I'm not going to be able to solve everyone's pricing problems on one live, unfortunately. I'd love to. If I was trying to, it would probably be this: put your prices up. But the easiest way to try and diagnose price and set the right price is to look at your goal. How much money do you want to make? Like, that's what this should come down to. You didn't start your own business to just work for fuck all, or work for less than you made in your corporate role. So you should have a couple of numbers. All right. Obviously, there is revenue that the company makes and profit that the company makes. And then there's the take home. All right. The money that you make yourself. And that's what I target myself on. And weirdly enough, I'm still I want maybe a little bit more now. I'm still on the same wage or take home as I was when I worked at an agency like 4 years ago. And it was a decent wage. It was all right, especially when you chucked all the commissions in and stuff. I got quite a comfortable living situation in terms of I don't do much. It's quite easy. We go on like 1 or 2 holidays a year. I don't have an expensive car. I don't really spend any money on like clothes and shit anymore. So I don't need to overpay myself. Maybe I should stretch that. I don't know. So let's say you've got this goal. I would always say base it around either company profit, not revenue, or base it around personal take home, and then reverse engineer the rest. Now, you might just be like, well, Chris, I want to take home £1 million. Cool. Set the goal. Okay. Doesn't have to be achievable in the next couple of days. You can give yourself a couple of years to do it, but make it a bit loftier than you did have previously, I imagine. And then we're going to work it out on 2 things: capacity and energy. Now, this goes back to that report that I was reading earlier, where it's just simply not sustainable if you want to make £5,000 or £10,000 a month take home to sell your time for £100 an hour. A couple of reasons why. Firstly, it's going to be very hard to acquire that number of clients. And secondly, you'll have to work every fucking hour under the sun. So you have to work out what your actual capacity is. And I put energy as well, because energy is important. You don't want to be sat there coaching or delivering to people 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours every single day. You know, you can do it for a bit probably if you had to get by, but you're simply just not going to reach your goal. Let's imagine you charge £100 an hour times 8 will be 800. All right, times 5 will be £4,000. All right, now that is how much you could potentially work and earn in a week. Is that right? In a working week. But you'd have to work 8 hours a day. And you'd also have to get 40 clients a week. Now, that's not taking into account any marketing in order to get those clients. It's not taking into account any administration at all or client liaison outside those hours. So realistically, you can probably only do half that. You can probably only do 2K maximum a week at £100 an hour. But you still got to go out there and find the fucking clients. That's the problem. So we need something that is much higher than that. Probably something that's packaged. Probably not something that's just constant, done with you, done with you, done with you. And we need to find these other levers in order for us to boost up and scale up the delivery model. Now, I'm not going to get into that too much because pricing is just such an absolute, well, it's a wild card when you basically just talking to a camera and you're on your own in a room. But I would urge you to look at the goal first and then work out exactly what it takes in order to hit that goal, and probably start to just sell a package for a minimum of £2,000. Because then you can hit, let's say you want to earn 100 figures, Jesus. Let's say you want to earn like 100 grand in revenue. That'll give you like, I don't know, 50, 60 grand to work with, which isn't loads, but just keeping it simple. You're not going to have to sell that many packages over the course of a year at £2,000. All right, especially when you take into account like renewals and things like that. Especially when you can pull these levers even more and turn it into a group model rather than a one-to-one. There are loads of different things you can do here. Anyway, quick, let's backtrack. We know who we're selling to. We know the commonalities or the things that they have in common. When we know the problem and the macro problems that we solve for them, we also have a path to success. We know how we're going to deliver each element of our service to them on that journey to success, and we can break bits off as and when we need to. We have a financial goal that is tied to exactly what we want in life, not in business necessarily, we can do in life. And we know that it's achievable, but it's slightly out of reach. Perfect. What we have just built is basically a product. And the product's great, all right? This needs to be good. But you could have the best product in the world and no one will buy it. Simply because they don't know about it, or you're not talking about it in the right way. And that's where the second or the outer circle comes into play here. We've done some of the hard work, and if you've had conversations with people, you probably sense checked certain bits of it, like what problems are you struggling with? Does it seem right that we should do this straight away, or this is your end goal, and things like that? How would you like these things delivered? Go and gather feedback on that stuff, yes. But the positioning piece is just as important, all right? It's the same reason why I will pay 200 quid for some Apple AirPods. All they do is play music in my ears versus going onto Amazon and just finding an unbranded product. The way that they're positioned, they are premium, they're easy, they connect to the Bluetooth. I'm already in their ecosystem. So you think Apple's got a master offer where you've got the AirPods, the iPhone, the Mac, I've got the iPad, the Apple Pencil, like brainwashed basically. But you get the idea, right? The reason I buy into that, yes, it's because the product's good, but if that hadn't been sold to me as this premium, very easy, sleek feel, an easy to use product, then I wouldn't have bought it. So I want to talk about positioning, all right? Because it's all well and good having this stuff, but how do we make it actually sound sexy and attractive to people who sit in this target market? Well, me being me, I like to have frameworks for fucking everything. And I've put together is it an acronym? I can't remember what it's called. But these letters that stand for the different parts of the promise, all right? This is your one-liner or your hook. And this is a thing I think people get wrong as well. They don't tend to go as bold as they possibly could. So I have a client who sells Facebook ads. Fucking ace. Really, really good. I was sat on a call with her not so long ago, and I do this occasionally with our clients because they don't want to be bold with the outcome that they offer. They don't want to promise too much, and I get it. But I said to her, what's the biggest outcome that any client has ever got for you? She was like, well, they had leads in a couple of days and sales within 5. I was like, okay. How many of your clients haven't achieved something similar? She's like, well, I get leads and sales for every single client that I've ever worked with in the first 5 days. I'm like, fucking hell. Well, that's the offer. I'll run your Facebook ads and get you leads or sales in the first 5 days guaranteed. And she's like, oh yeah, that kind of works. I'm like, cool. So rather than I run Facebook ads for you, just say that. Why? Because it's a lot more attractive. We have to think about the whole point of like the offer. All right. This isn't actually the offer. This is more of like the product, so to speak. What we're going to work on now is that one sentence. The sentence that's going to make people go, fucking hell, that's for me. And if you've been in marketing a little while, you'll know what a hook is, right? It's something, rather than it being the first line of your post, it's something that makes you go, ooh, I want to know more. That's interesting. And your offer statement, this one-liner, is basically just that. It's a hook. It's a hook to get people to the next stage, which is usually to book a call. All right. So what are the elements of a decent offer statement or a promise or a marketing hook? Well, the first is the method. So how you do it. We need to make sure that people are aware of how we do this because they'll be skeptical. And I want to actually preface this by saying you don't have to have all 6 of these. All right. You may you may eliminate a couple. The next is an audience. All right. So we need to know exactly who it's for. Next one is speed. How fucking quick can I get to that outcome? Massive one. Because people will pay a lot more for speed. If we think about my client who sells the Facebook ads, 5 leads and sales in 5 days or 7 days or whatever it was. That's fast. All right. Most people, it's that fast. People will be like, fucking hell, I need to make sure this is true. Perfect. Book a call. Yeah, nice and bold. T is for turn-offs. So we know there are certain things our target market don't like. My target market don't like ads. They don't like doing cold outreach. They don't like fucking crazy technical funnels and stuff like that. Cool. So I tell them that they can work with me, get the results they want, but without using any of that stuff. Okay. Which is the most important one, end result. Okay. Final one, risk reversal. So, big caveat here. A risk reversal means eliminating any risk on the client's part, which is basically like offering a guarantee. I've never done it. Some of our clients do it and it works tremendously well. The problem with offering a guarantee now is Alex Hormozi is coming to the world and he's written this whole book around how to create offers. And one of the biggest things that he thinks will convince people to buy is this elimination of risk. And of course it will. If you say like, I will make you a millionaire, and if you're not a millionaire in 6 months, I'll give you all your money back and more. It's risk free. You may as well do it. And it's a sales tactic, let's be honest. I always think that people who look for guarantees or who only buy because of the guarantee usually make pretty like flaky customers. So I just wanted to preface that because since his book came out, these some of the ads I get hit with on Instagram are fucking crazy. They're literally guaranteeing that they'll come round and raise your fucking kids if you don't make $1 million in a year and stuff like that. It's absolutely mental. So pinch your salt with this one, okay? So if you imagine we've got this one sentence, this marketing hook that says, I'm going to help you reach end result in a really quick time using this and using this method without the thing that you hate. All right, I missed out the audience. So if I was to go, coaches, I can help you end result. I can help you become a millionaire using my 3-step XY fucking Z system without cold outreach, without funnels, without this. And I'll give you all your money back if we don't do it in 5 days or less. You know, that kind of thing. So again, not got enough space on the whiteboard, but you imagine you just piss around with all these little pieces. Okay, so we know the audience because we've done it. We know the method that we're using because we've got it here. What's the absolute fastest you could help someone achieve the results, and what things do they hate? Well, we should probably know that at some point in this research as well. What's the big end result? So what's success? Well, that should be the end of our phases. And then the risk reversal, do it if you want. I don't do it, but I make it visible for people who watch me and obviously for clients as well, because it can work very well depending on the industry. Like if you're selling to marketers, they're probably sick and tired of the guarantees and the reversals. So you can rearrange these however you want. Coaches, I will help you reach this massive outcome using my XYZ method in 5 days or less without these 3 things you hate. And if you don't achieve end goal, I'll give you your money back. That's a pretty convincing statement. Now you just have to like mess around with these bits, as I say, and you can maybe get rid of the method. You might not need that, or you might want to get rid of the speed. Just write those things down now. Okay. What method do you use in your business? And it could just be as simple as LinkedIn organic or Facebook ads. All right. The audience. We've done this work. All right. Who are the people? What are the characteristics or commonalities, I should say, and what problem do you solve? What's the opposite of that problem, or what massive result does that help with? Because that is your end result. How quickly can you do it? What do they hate about it? All right. Pretty simple. Problem is, this introduces a new problem. Loads of people have done this work, and if you are in a competitive space, which you probably are, then you're going to struggle to sound different when you try and get your voice out online. All right. Thing to remember is none of us are actually that famous. If you're watching me, I guarantee you. I certainly are. And my clients aren't either. So we can't just rely on generic bullshit in order to get people to buy. We have to do something different. I talked about Hormozi a second ago. If he says something that's very simple, people will go nuts over it simply because he has a massive brand. If I say it and it's super simple, no one gives a shit because no one knows who I am. And that's like a bitter pill to swallow because we spend all our daily hours and like all our years working to realize that, okay, I actually have to work a little bit harder and a little bit smarter to convince people that I'm the right person. Now, the best way to do this without going into our personal brand DNA framework is to look at differentiation. All right. People will differentiate you based on two things. All right. This is a brain, by the way: the logical and the emotional. All right, or the business and the personal. So we've already done the business type stuff. Like, I help coaches win clients. Sweet, done. So that's logical. But there are other ways that I can appeal to my target market and stand out against everyone else who does this exact same thing. There are loads of people who help coaches win clients on LinkedIn. Like, it's crazy. So we need to add something else into the mix. I was working with a recruiter a while ago and had a call with him when he joined, and I really wanted to get under the skin of what made him different from every other recruiter out there, because obviously LinkedIn is filled with recruiters. And he started telling me that he was studying to become some sort of wine specialist, expert, connoisseur. He'd given up time in his week. I think it was every Tuesday or something. He would go and work at a wine shop for free alongside studying for it too. I was like, right, now there's a bit of an angle. There's something we can work with, because you might be a recruiter, which kind of appeals to no one because there are so many. But when you are the red wine recruiter, or you are a recruiter who loves red wine, as an example, it's a big differentiator. It puts off anyone that doesn't like alcohol or red wine, but anyone that does, it'll bring them straight in. Plus, it's interesting. Who would give up their free time to go and work in a fucking shop? Well, this guy would. Why? Well, he likes wine. Oh, so do I. Actually, I do need a job, Philly. I'm going to go with him over the guy that is just labelled a recruiter. All right? I think I've seen another one where it's just like the marathon running XYZ consultant. That just positions him away from every single other XYZ consultant. Okay, so this is how we can take this whole product, map it out, make it make logical sense. So there's a phrase in there that makes sense and hooks our audience in. And then on a different level, we're standing out from them because we are hitting them emotionally. All right, big difference. This makes sense on paper. This means I like it, or I am interested in this person. That's a whole different thing we're not going to get into, but the personal brand side of things. How you brand yourself as the person you are, not forgetting the business, but not making the whole personal brand about the business, which is a massive mistake people make. And even worse, people are going into the AI trap now, where they're just using something with no soul that remixes the internet to basically speak for them online. I think we're going to see a massive resurgence. I think we already are to some degree on the AI content. But anyway, hopefully you can see what we've done here. All right. And let's just take a moment to think about the impact that this could potentially have across every fucking area of your business. If you know the type of people that you want to write posts and create content for and you want to sell to, and you know all their problems inside out, and you know the exact steps that they have to go on to reach success and how you're going to help solve them, and you can phrase it all in one sentence, can you imagine how much difference that's going to have on your mindset, your clarity, and your approach just to your day-to-day? It is crazy. And I can say this from, as someone that's taken like 400 or 500 people through pretty much the same process. I know what their problems with each bits are. I know the sticking points. I know the frustrations. I know when they're going to get their first aha moment most of the time. And it's super, super powerful. But if I was selling 10 different offers, or I hadn't done this work, my mind would be like, oh, what do I do here? Oh, I'll have to go and build this thing over here. I'm not quite sure. And you just drive yourself into fucking chaos. So this unlocks loads of stuff. I can write content for this person who I know has this problem. That's like a year's worth of content if I just focus on 10 different problems and talk about them in different ways. I know how to sell to these people because I know their problems pretty much better than they do, because I've taken a few of them down this route. I know, like, okay, they're always going to have a wobble here about the offer. And I know that content will become a sticking point, mainly from a production point of view, because they're going to run out of ideas. And I know they're going to get these 3 objections all the time and yada, yada, yada. So it makes my whole process for dealing with clients and all my materials a lot easier. I know the first things that they need to hear in order to get them into gear and take action quickly. So it helps with the onboarding. I know all the, it knocks down so many different dominoes. I've been going for 40 minutes now. This was meant to be like 20 minutes. Always the case. Another massive caveat with this, okay? This work's never finished. So it isn't just a one and done. If you think about if you were making a song, if you were trying to produce them, there are very few songs that are in the world that in my opinion, have been finished. All right, because you can always just turn the bass up a little bit, or you could take some low end off the fucking hi hats, or you could put another extra backing vocal in order to make the chorus pop a bit more, or maybe you could add some light guitar in somewhere. I don't know. I don't mix down songs, but you get the idea. It's never done, so we have to keep fine tuning it and looking at different things. Like I went through a whole process recently where I nailed down who I thought our top 20% of clients were. So ideal clients who have the exact traits that we want from future clients. And then I pulled all the sales call transcripts because we've used Fathom for a while, and I analysed them. And I asked the AI to look for like different problems and trends and things that they were struggling with, and also like different traits that they had and stuff like that. I then fed that back into this for us, which just means we can onboard people a lot better and we can take them through the process so much easier. I'm saying that to say this: it's never done. You have to keep working at it. And we just did a massive thing where we chopped the price and the duration of our program pretty much in half, as a bit of a test, and it worked really well because we'd spent the time doing this work. But it meant that, again, it's just never finished because we're going to change it again soon, probably, etc., etc. So I do have some training on this that you can go and get from my featured section on LinkedIn. At the time of recording this, we don't have spots open for C2C yet, but you can join and get ahead of the game for June. So we cap the number of spots every month. Last month we had 7. We sold them all out, which was amazing. Was it 7? Yeah, it was 7. One spot has already gone for June. So if you're interested in working with me and the team directly on helping you build this out and actually changing these things, and this is just one of the steps that we go through, but actually changing these things, then I'll put the link somewhere underneath around the video. You'll be able to click on it, find out more, and see if you think we can help. Obviously, if you have questions, you can shoot me a DM, but you can join ahead of June so we can get going and really start to make a difference on, I was going to say your life, obviously your life, but mostly on the business to begin with. Because you're waking up, most people not knowing what to do because this work hasn't been done. They've not spent enough time developing the offer and thinking about the model. Anyway, that is it for me. Have a good day.